into the draft. So what are we anticipating?
I really want SK Telecom to secure some security into that mid and late game. I'm expecting Control Mage, I want to see Ezreal, and if I'm a G2 fan, I want to see them take it all away.
Yeah, we're expecting things like the Ezreal to be banned away, Tom Kench will likely be taken away from Mata. Interestingly, SKT taking the Sona Taric off the board. They do not want to have to deal with that from G2.
Yeah, still yet to really make its way over into the LCK in Korea. They have seen some funny lanes with Talia Pantheon, but Sona Taric in particular really warps kind of the dynamic in which you have to play the game mid to late.
And of course, the first two bans from G2, the Jarvan and the Galio, is the two highest priority champions from the play-in stage at 91 and 89% presence respectively. The Karthus being taken away from Jankos. He made a name for himself by pressing R in the spring split.
Now, I love the Karthus ban because it's something that was very specific to Europe. The rest of the world didn't really prioritize this champion in the jungle, but it is something that in Europe, the top teams first picked it almost every game, and LCK, or SKT rather, are saying we don't want to have to deal with it. But right now, Spawn, I'm noticing in the draft, Ezreal is being left open.
It certainly isn't. It's Teddy's best champion and gives him the ability to not only turn into a late game scaling powerhouse, but 1v2 the lane and unlock Mata on the map. I feel like one of the key things in this matchup is Mata matching Mickey because it's a crucial member of G2.
Now I'm looking at some available picks. Ryze, Sylas, Akali, Aurelia, Jace, all of the big flex picks that so many people have been talking about have been left open, and no surprise, G2 immediately get their hands on the big power pick of Ryze.
Yeah, certainly do top mid flexibility as well as the safe laning phase, dominant split, versatile champion. See whether right now it's going to be a Sylas and potentially Aurelia takeaway here. Try and get that AD AP mix, which is so hard at the moment on the top side of the map.
I wouldn't be surprised if SKT just looked to grab the Sylas and maybe the Lee Sin for cleared, with both Jarvan and Rek'Sai taken off the board, arguably two of the most contested junglers. Just lock in that next big powerhouse and something that you're extremely comfortable on.
Or potentially Braum. Whilst you don't necessarily know what Mickey is going to play, bottom lane champion pool is being hit quite heavily right now, and I do think that it's important for Teddy and Mata to get a very advantageous matchup.
And just to put some numbers to it, Klid, most played champion this split was the Lee Sin, 19 games. Following that was Jarvan at 12, and then Rek'Sai at 4. So very, very heavily focusing on that pick. Over on G2 sides, they've already locked in the Xayah for perks.
Now we're looking at the Xayah Rakan right now for G2. If you ask any European team, they say it is a mistake to give Mickey his Rakan. It was one of his best champions during the regular season. It is one of his best playmaking champions, and it synergizes so well with the Xayah as well. You already have a strong 2v2 on the bot side of the map for G2.
And this is why I thought the priority on Braum would be so much higher, because all of a sudden, if you want to take two good matchups in there, you know, something like the Ezreal, which is being hovered, now you're not going to have the Braum response in the bottom lane. Jungle champion pool looks much more open for me, so they choose to go with Teddy's pick, and Martin now is on the back foot.
So what I love about this draft so far is that both teams feel like they're quite happy with what they've got. For the side of SKT, they have the flexibility of Sylas that can still move between top and mid. Klid has got a jungler that he knows he's very comfortable on, and they can even pinch any potentially bad jungle matchups. And Teddy is on his legendary Ezreal. SKT must be feeling good, while G2, they're in exactly the same position.
Exactly right. Most comfortable bottom lane for Perkz and Mickey X, especially when it is going to be in a standard laning phase. They also still have the flexibility to change it up into some form of funnel. We saw that in the final. Obviously, Ryze is just the best flex pick on the current patch. And also, stylistically, neither of these comps are just locked into a certain style. They're not teamfight. They're not 1-3-1. They are very versatile at this stage of the champion select.
So now we see the Brauming taken off the board. You already talked about it earlier. Spawn, the Morgana being taken away, that potential funnel strategy going to be denied from the side of SKT. They don't want to have to deal with any of this crazy stuff from G2.
A lot of respect coming up from SK Telecom, taking away the Sona, the Karthus, the Morgana for this stage, and maybe nudging G2 Esports a little bit more towards that standard or traditional style of gameplay. We need to find these last two picks to find out how it works out, as Akali is the final phase 2 ban.
Yeah, and really the only flex pick untouched, I was going to say, is Jace. Nautilus potentially also falling into this category. I thought Faker would be playing it a little bit more. A lot of this year, he has played the control mage in the mid lane, a lot of Lissandra, a lot of Galio. I think Nautilus fits that mold, but interested to see whether it's something Mata wants to play.
So now we're looking at like what potential picks are available. Where will the Rise go? Expectations are for me that the Rise will go up towards the top side of the map. G2 already have very solid engage with the Rakan, and they may be looking for a little bit more, but they're actually going to go with the direction of Jason. Again, you can still flex these two. Very easily can go between the top and mid lane, and they want to spend a little bit more time thinking about what they want to put into the jungle.
And it could potentially just be the Olaf. You know,
Could
tempo
be.
jungler, already 2 strong lanes, clear fast, be able to protect Caps as well as Wonder in the lineup. It's something that we've seen Jankos go back to time and time again, especially with Rek'Sai take it away.
This is a Jankos special. Back when he first, when he really made a name for himself in the European scene, it was on this Elise. He was titled the First Blood King all the way back in the day, and recently he's been bringing it out a lot more on this patch with these early aggressive junglers, but you're definitely looking for early game leads with this champion.
It is Jankos' most played champion professionally at 72 games with a win-loss ratio of just under 60%. The final lock-in is going to be the Azir, so Spawn, you were asking, what is Faker going to play? He's currently sitting on the Azir, and Mata takes the Nautilus.
And this is more of what we saw when Faker played against aggressive mid laners in the LCK like Chovy. A lot more Azir pickup coming through, a little bit of Corki in there as well. Certainly scaling seemed to be the priority in the LCK, where a lot of the teams internationally like to play that fast early mid-game strategy that we're currently seeing in G2's lineup.
And what I'm really excited about is I felt like what we're seeing right now is almost what you expected in the LCK finals, with Griffin having this very aggressive style against the slower, more controlled style of SKT. And what SKT did was control it in the final. They prevented Griffin from getting that early game lead. The question is, can they now do the same against the LEC champions of G2?
Yeah, and when you have a look at G2's lineup right now, you have to be so aware of how their side lane is going to play this mid game. They're so good at exerting pressure and trying to tear you apart. I feel like all the time when we see LCK teams get control of the map, set up their plays, they kind of squeeze you out of farm. Well, G2 aren't that kind of team. They fight back against that play style, and they have the perfect comp to do so.
And one of the things that we've talked a lot about in preparation for this MSI group stage is how G2 are a creative team when it comes to decision making, when it comes to implementation and action on the Rift. Ladies and gentlemen, the LECs, G2 Esports, are taking on the LCKs, SK Telecom T1. It is the opening bout, and while there were not massive surprises thrown in the draft, G2 are going to prove what level of play Europe, and more specifically this squad, has on the international stage, because we've already alluded to it. This is where G2 can make or break a name for themselves.
So what I'm going to be looking at in the very early game is what direction the junglers take. Because we talked about how Elise is someone who wants to try and get her laners ahead. She has a couple of options. It's a little difficult to gank the Azir with the cleanse. And with a Rakan, you could look for a bot lane gank, but against the Nautilus, there is the potential risk there. So where will Jankos look to put his attention, and how well will Clid track this in the early game?
And I think that they have to go towards mid lane. If they just allow Faker to gain priority over that lane, get the push, and unlock Clid, then the ganking answers on the side of SKT are equally as scary, I feel. You've got Nautilus support with all that CC inbuilt into the kit. You've got yourself a Silas top lane. We've been talking about this so much, the ability to gain control of the wave. SKT have the tools to fight back, but it must go through Faker first.
Well, we're going to find out. Taking a look at the start, it's fairly defensive positions on both sides. There's Wonder, just spot out Khan. Get a little bit of damage to start things off, but I just want to draw a little bit more attention quickly to Caps versus Faker. For anybody who has not kept up with G2's roster change, Caps came over from Fnatic last year. Perks role swap down, and in this mid lane, Caps is once again going up against the greatest of all time, Faker.
He certainly is. Caps, last year he had the opportunity to play up against Rookie. He didn't do that well. He definitely struggled. And Faker has definitely been a long time goal for him to try and overcome. And it's funny because when you look at it, Perks was someone who's already had the opportunity to battle and go even against Faker on the international.
You take a look at that domestic title, 6 for Caps, 7 for Faker. Obviously, Faker has all of the international success under his belt. And Camps will have the pressure today. Already taking some trades from those Sand Soldiers as Mickey and Perks are being shoved in by Ezreal and Nautilus.
And a few things I want to point out quickly. It is going to be airy in the top lane as far as Keystones. A lot more lane dominant room than maybe something like Conqueror for the split pushing late game. And when you have a look into that bottom lane, it's going to be Guardian picked up for Mickey. Much more lane oriented than something like the Unsealed Spellbook that you can potentially run on the Rakan.
And you mentioned Mickey, he was a big player that many fans were concerned about. Would he be able to play? He didn't get a huge amount of scrim time with the team initially, but ever since they did come to Hanoi, the team has been practicing with him, he is playing, and he is good to go. And we're excited to see what he can bring out here in today's game.
Well, as it stands, Jankos going to take away that scuttle. Caps already putting some pressure to the top half of the map. 3 members of G2 Esports starting to surround Clid and Khan. Khan is going to be under some threat. Here comes Clid. Manages to get the Tempest and the Cripple. He's going to ward hop away to safety. The Rune Prison comes down, but there's no further follow-up, no summoner spells used either, and crucially, Khan does not get tower dome.
But this should go to show how aware and how intelligent Clid is as a jungler. You recognize, bit of a bat in the bot lane.
There is indeed. Supports going on to respective AD carries. Perks drop to 200 hit points. Continues to get pushed back as Mata and Teddy step forward. As it stands, Teddy and Mata win out that trade.
Definitely a favorable trade towards the bot side of the map, but I want to go back towards this Clid point because he saw the potential of getting dived towards the top side. Immediately he was there for support, and now he's looking for a gank.
Oh, the chains don't connect. Wonder manages to escape with his life. Smooth sidestep.
Because Clid is a member of SK Telecom that a lot of people would be like, where did this guy come from? Well, Jindong Gaming last year in the LPL was considered on equal with Ning and Kasa, so a hyped jungler out of the LPL. Very smart early game, also known for his Lee Sin, Zac aggressive play. So watch this guy to be one of the main people that look to initiate fights for the SKT lineup.
Especially on his most played champion this split. Khan continues to be the focus of some pressure here on that Silas. Down 8 CS for the time being, as Caps will get a little bit of time to put pressure onto Faker. Khan has already teleported back to lane. Himself up that dark seal and takes a small trade from Jankos.
And now we need to see how Khan deals with some of this pressure because in the LCK was known as someone that you could place behind. However, bottom lane hook's on.
All right, the hook does connect that dredged line. A little bit of a reaction there from Mickey. Clid looks to be around the Scuttle Crab, so not coming in just yet. Cleanse and Flash still available for Faker. Not even going to need either as he easily sidesteps the cocoon.
And unfortunately, I don't know whether they've got enough done in this mid lane early. Faker still with both summoners has got himself a 2-wave advantage right now on the Azir and just bullying Caps around.
Still only 5 minutes into the game, Spawn. I'm not too concerned just yet. I'm still looking at this map and I'm noticing that G2's investment is towards the top side of the map, and while we do see that Faker is getting an advantage in mid, note how Wunder is building a big advantage towards the top side as well. He set up a nice freeze after Khan and Clid tried to force the wave and then TP back in, and he hasn't even gone back to base yet. Still has the teleport, still looking for that first buy. So G2 definitely choosing to invest towards top side rather than mid.
They are, but you have to understand that the way SKT get control is they just slow it down.
Of course.
They make you play towards their speed. And I think right now, if you have mid lane shove and are able to set up this kind of vision control and keep the Azir safe, you put yourself on that clock.
And very crucial, we saw Mickey on screen. The slide and glide, not going to be able to land the Emperor's Divide. Faker almost catching Caps, but a well-timed flash means Caps escapes with his life. And as alluding to a moment before, we've seen Mickey recall and roam to try impact the mid lane several times over in Europe, but LCK's SKT have not only scouted it, they had the ward that was just about timing out, and obviously Mata was there to potentially get involved if needed, Spawn.
Yeah, and they even had Clid still in the wings, not showing himself on any vision, although now will be spotted out. You can see SKT very aware of what the current setup looks like.
All right, good damage from Jankos onto Clid, has flash available, but not going to chase further. Clid pushed out of his jungle as G2 crucially are investing all of their resources in the top half of the map.
Notice that Caps is sitting in base right now, has the teleport up. He's looking for an opportunity to join his team and maybe go for a fight, as we see a bit more trading in bot, but after realizing nothing's happening...
Ooh, nothing at all as Mickey re-engages. Mata forced to flash. 6.5 minutes in, and it has been non-stop trading blow for blow in multiple lanes. Teddy has already recalled and teleported back to lane. He's sitting on that Sheen. Caulfield's Warhammer for Perks as he gets caught out. Take a look at the minimap. Faker's coming from mid lane. Perks gets first blood onto Mata.
Huge pickup there for G2. SKT, they saw Faker roaming down. They knew Caps wasn't in the mid lane. They thought that they could set up this play in time for Faker to arrive, but he was too far away. Mata finds the kill, and G2 walk away with first blood.
And if this was a lane that Europe was worried about, then already striking first blood here for G2 at MSI. Such a great turnaround kill for Perks and Mickey.
Oh man, the tension is still so high because even though there's only one kill on the board, it has been non-stop pressure. If you look at the minimap again, Caps is roaming top. When that first blood happened, a Faker was roaming bottom, and Khan may be in trouble. He still got flashed though.
And this is one of the things that you point out towards the smarts of G2. You can see first blue buff handoff happening. As an Azir player, you want that immediately, so they use that time.
Solo kill. Can Wonder find the shot? Take a look in it. Not going to be able to. Was on cooldown.
Very close there from Wonder. Picking up that Dirk on his first back gave him a lot of armor, and you can see that advantage is building even further and further towards the top side of the map. He's going to be able to pick up some plates. He's not going to greed. Now there is a flashless top lane Khan, and Wonder in a very happy position.
Exactly. Wonder stepping up on the international stage. You can see why the analyst desk wanted to keep their eyes on him, and this is a replay of that first blood.
Yeah, it certainly is. You can understand Marta's aggression. He thinks with Faker heading down the river right now, with all of that mid lane push, that he's going to be safe for the kill, but unfortunately miscalculates the damage and falls down.
And my biggest criticism here is that the wave was not in a position for them to try and set that play up. Teddy was stuck behind 5 minions, and the Azir didn't even have ultimate either. So in my opinion, it felt like a bit of an optimistic play that ended up getting punished.
All right, Mickey actually dashes forward, eats that dredge line to the face, so Perks does not take the damage. Two-shot barrage chunks about a third of Perks' hit points, and right now, G2 Esports just under 1,000 gold up. Big advantage for Wonder in the top lane, but Spawn, Caps is falling behind Faker in the mid lane.
Yeah, it certainly is. However, if you're able to play towards your sides as successfully as Jankos currently is, with bottom lane push and top lane, the CS lead just continuing to grow, I feel like this is where Mickey actually gets unlocked to be available on Summoner's Rift. So I thought that they would have to try and get rid of, the cleared Faker duo and try and separate them, but that isn't the way that right now G2 are attacking the map.
And a lot of the disadvantages that Caps finds himself in is a lot to do because he's just constantly looking for roams. As you rightly said, Spawn, he's looking for plays on the side lane. And the thing is, this forces both Khan and the bot lane of SKT to be on the defense. So while Caps is putting himself at a deficit, he's trusting his teammates to pick up the weight, and they're doing so beautifully in this early game.
And you would also hope that with the successful 1-3-1 that's going to come out as soon as this map is opened up, that Caps is going to be the person on the front foot in the side lane. Faker going to have to just catch it turret. So certainly a more flexible way to accrue farm as this game progresses.
And talking about farm and gold, G2 picking up a couple plates down in that bottom lane as well, extending that gold lead further. And this is kind of the style that you were anticipating from a squad like G2. Looking for proactive plays, looking to get into SKT's face and disrupt them. And once again, Jankos and Caps looking for opportunities top lane. No flash for Khan, but Clid is nearby.
Now we need to take a quick look at the minimap, because you'll notice that a lot of people right now are moving towards this top side of the map. The Azir, the Nautilus, I'm expecting a fight to kick off. If not, it just looks like more tower plates are going to be on the side of G2.
As the tension continues to build, Mickey was potentially able to disrupt or annoy Faker. That's a couple more plates continuing to drop. Caps and Wonder, they're going to be content for now. Mata's recalled and joined the rest of his squad in the top lane, and G2 Esports will be content for now backward, but look at the mid lane. More plates falling.
And that's what I was going to say, because they shuffled the lanes up so successfully here for G2, because they were on the front foot. They got access to the turret plates top as well as mid. Sure, Teddy's free farming right now, but the wave is still off the turret, and Rift Herald's wide open.
And that means that Jankos and Wonder are going to start this off. First big item purchase, by the way. Perks, with the plates on that first blood, has already got himself that Essence Reaver, and Mickey's going to rejoin him in this bottom lane. That is a good, advantageous position to be in as G2 are contesting his objective.
And this is a great example of what DeFisher was saying on the analyst desk, where he wants to move away from this idea that G2 is just a win lane, win game team. They're very smart, they're very proactive around where they move around the map, where they play to their strong side. And when you looked at the minimap, it looked like they were investing 5 people towards the top side. All they were doing was creating pressure. They knew where they could move. They knew where SKT could not punish, and they're making a trade right now. They get themselves the Rift Herald, they're looking to secure top tower, and in exchange, they'll lose an Ocean Ring.
Yeah, they certainly will, but it's not the biggest price to pay, especially in the style of game they're now playing. They've got their top laner on nearly double CS. No matter where Khan goes, he's going to be behind both solo laners of G2.
I think that's so important to reiterate. 123 23 CS for Wonder, 74 for Khan. Now, don't disregard the fact that Faker is up 30 on caps in the mid lane, so your decision-making leads to advantages in one area, but it's at the cost of Faker in mid.
And this is where you have to credit the brains of G2, because it's a deliberate choice that they've made. They know they have the 1-3-1, and that Khan is the only person that can stop the bottom side lane. He's the one with the teleport, so they've opted into this trade, and Wonder is further ahead of the clock.
Now, Jankos looking for a play towards the bot side of the map. Debating whether they are aware of this ward inside the brush. He is definitely going to get spotted out, and Teddy is just going to go back to base. But this is the thing that we have to remind people of. SKT still have this team fighting angle. They have the Nautilus, they have Azir, and they have Teddy's Ezreal, something that has made highlight reel after highlight reel over in the LCK. So things are by no means like done and dusted for SKT. It's just that the game is going almost as expected. Early game in favor of G2, they're sitting at a 2,000 gold lead, but the onus now falls on them to push this. They need to manage their side lanes properly. They need to set up the 1-3-1, and they cannot allow that team fight that SKT will be looking for.
I still think that whilst it's not an unwinnable situation, this is much further than SKT would like to be behind for now. In saying that, good news is that they've been able to staunch the bleeding that was starting to occur on the bottom side of the map right now. But you just have a look at the vision in River. Complete bottom side control, still Perks and Mickey shoving up. Really, SKT are playing 3 lanes on the back foot right now and not even able to push their advantage with Azir.
And for the viewers at home, one thing you're going to start seeing is that Wonder, that Jace, is going to move out of this 1v1 and they're going to send caps. Notice how Sylas is itemizing right now. Full armor. He wants to mitigate as much of this Jace damage as possible, so G2 just can like, okay, we'll put you up against the Rise. You've got no resistances to deal with him, and we're more than happy to send him off into a side lane against a weak champion so he can then get back into the game.
And Faker's world's just getting smaller and smaller right now. You can see being converged in from all sides. Rift Herald is dropped.
And let's see what can happen. All 5 members of both teams actually making their way to the mid lane. The Rift Herald's going to get that fully charged up and gets the boop down. True Shot Barrage flies across G2 Esports HP bars, and while the tower doesn't fall, G2 pushed out their waves. They took the top tower, converged mid, and just before 15 minutes on the clock, they are starting to apply pressure as a team.
And this is the thing, you can feel it as a viewer. You can feel like, what do SKT do? It's like every time they try to make a move, G2 is already pushing those buttons, like forcing you to try and make a mistake, but SKT yet to make that mistake so far.
And this is where we get to really start putting G2 under the magnifying glass. How do they push in top? How do they gain control over topside vision to start forcing this Azir away from the turret? The game plan has been so solid so far, but unless you can open up the rest of the map, it will stall.
Exactly that.
All right, Nash's Tooth picked up now for Faker. Iceborne Gauntlet for Teddy. Khan is still working towards his first big item. But as it stands, G2, they've got themselves that 3,000 gold lead. They are grouped once again, pushing Faker away from the tower. And just a couple of autos should secure it on this wave. With the Elise and Jace combination, that's the second tower going in favor of G2 Esports. The early game has gone as you would anticipate, not only for the team compositions, but also for the team styles of play. And now G2 have to extend this mid-game decision-making to push SK Telecom to the brink.
And I want to reinforce, G2 is right now at a 3,000 gold advantage. And when we look at the gold, it is all on Wonder. And it's actually in the bot side of the map as well. Both Perks and Wonder have built up huge gold advantages over their lane opponents. And like you can see in the itemization with the Black Cleaver already completed, Youmu's likely to come out next for Wonder. Like the AD carry now at 2 items. Even though Rise is at a CS deficit, because of all the global gold he's been picking up, he's actually in an even state against Faker.
And the way they have gain those advantages, with the exception of the 2v2 bottom lane outplay, has just been through solid teamwork and decision-making, choosing the right lane to bully, making sure that you're sending the right resources and not allowing the rest of the team to fall behind.
And of course, as this tower is being pressured on the bottom lane, just want to remind everybody that the last time we saw SK Telecom on the international stage was in the MSI final of 2017. And of course, how G2 Esports made it to this MSI was this extremely dominant split over in Europe, a 3-0 sweep of Origin, and it was through play style and decision-making very similar to what they've demonstrated here today. Proactive, aggressive, in your face.
And you can see that that is continuing. Now all 5 members, bottom side of the map, looking to pressure that last remaining outer turret.
SK Telecom, they don't have the numbers, they don't have the resources, and actually, they don't have a lot of waves set up. Teleports available for Wonder and Caps. So if Faker and Khan continue pressuring the mid and top, there is answers available. Wonder's accelerated shot blast will not find Teddy. The tower pressure's not done yet. That's a 4-man stack on the bottom lane. Mickey's looking for a way to get in with the quickness. 2 towers have fallen in favor of G2 Esports at what looks to be the cost of the top tower. Khan has been left alone for a while.
This is just beautiful map play right now from G2. One of the big... Oh, we see a bit of a play.
And this is what you talked about, Vedi, as Khan steals the ultimate. The Realm Warp gets him out to safety. Such a beautiful hijack, but no MR to speak of, and that's why he almost got insta-geared.
And it's still on the back foot. They lose 2 turrets and a dragon for some damage on the top lane. A little bit of farm onto your Silas as it is already so far ahead. G2 have turned the lights down on Summoner's Rift right now, and SKT can't see anything.
It is a 5,000 gold lead in favor of Europe's G2 Esports, and if it were any other teams in any other league, I would consider this game over. But it is SK Telecom with Faker at the helm, and an Azir that is farming up towards his 2 items. SKT have to play flawlessly to claw back this deficit.
Well, I mean, this is the thing right now. You'd be looking at something like Baron and you'd say, okay, this is the next big objective for G2. But the reality is they don't actually need the Baron to win this game. They are well in their power to just play the 1-3-1 now. This Jace is unmatchable. No one can stop him. And Caps, while he is behind, you just saw what he did to Khan. Admittedly, Khan was under a tower. That did help a little bit. But the point still stands that Caps is still in a position to hold his own, so they can just keep the map split up. And it's actually SKT that want to try and force G2 to group so they can use the power of this Azir.
And when you go into a 1-3-1 with 3 turrets still up and available as your tier 1s, you just have a quicker way to traverse the map. You can get better advantages. You have to make them walk back the long way through their base. And that just means you start strangling them out on things like jungle camps, you know, chips onto turret. It's the small, incremental, cut you 1,000 times and watch you bleed to death that now G2 can implement. Whereas SKT, they need that one moment. They need the 5v5 team fight. Otherwise, it's going to be incredibly difficult to claw back into this game.
And this is the one concern that I had for SKT coming into this tournament. How many gambles are they willing to take? They're a very smart team, they're a very proactive team, and they can carry through multiple lanes. But when they're in this situation, they often wait for their opponent to make a mistake. And if they don't make that mistake, sometimes they're just too cautious, and they won't take that 50-50 play. They won't take that play that could end the game, because they're always waiting and waiting and waiting, expecting that small mistake to come about.
And this is something that the analyst desk was alluding to, that in best of ones in the early stages of MSI, SK Telecom may want to see how G2 and how IG play. This is the first time we've seen IG, G2, and SK Telecom since the regional finals, and the question of can they deliver on the international stage is what we all came in today pondering. I'm 20 minutes into this game. G2 Esports have got a gigantic lead, and Faker steps forward into vision. G2 not done yet. The shock blast chunks down Clit. He continues to run for his life. Now Baron vision is being set up, and Europe, if you had any doubts, surely this starts to quash them. G2 have played a flawless 20 minutes, but dare I say that's the easiest part of the game to play. Let's see if they finish it out, as that is going to be the deciding factor. Dredgeline nearly catches Wonder out as Faker and Mata try to defend the tower. Not done yet. The shock blast comes in from behind enemy lines, and SKT forced away from tower.
But I just really want to draw people's attention to the mini-map right now, because you can just see how much vision SKT has versus the amount of vision that G2 has. Like, everything is in darkness for the side of SKT, and all of their waves are being pushed under their tower, which means that SKT can, they have to walk into fog of war when approaching this Baron, which means that there's always the risk of them getting picked off and getting collapsed upon.
And you can see SKT is starting to fight for scraps. Teddy was trying to do a Raptor camp at the same time as Cleared. All of a sudden you have Khan with a lane pushing back towards him, not being able to farm up every creep. The deficit is starting to grow. G2 now, can just go back into their 1-3-1. Every time you do this, you ask the question, what mistake are you going to make? Is it a face check? Is it not answering the Baron? They have all the cards in which choice they want to make. SKT need to play this so carefully.
No room for a spawn. Fortunately, though, Cleed has given a little bit of time to clear out vision. He's picked up that Scuttle Crab as well. It's the small things you have to take when you've been pushed this far down. 2, 3 items starting to be picked up on the members of G2 Esports. And now that ticking timer as SKT are looking to scale, looking to find those options, those ways to buy time. Unfortunately, defensive vision around Baron will help them, but I don't know if G2 is going to force their hand there. You can see a dragon coming up in a moment or two, and the waves need to get pushed out elsewhere on the map.
Now, in an ideal world, G2 would actually love to get the teleport out from Khan, because if they then have no teleports on the map, playing this 1-3-1 becomes a lot easier, which is why I'm a little surprised as to why G2 actually haven't forced the Baron just yet, because the amount of control they have over it, it would be very easy to force SKT into an awkward situation, but they're playing it calm for the time being. An Infernal Drake has just spawned, and that looks to be the next big objective that both these teams will fight over.
And now to judge SKT's methodical way of regaining control, you saw 3 members grouping up, sweeping out one avenue of vision, looking for the response that's going to come out of G2. They successfully achieved it top side of the map, but now the vision switch has caught them off guard. This might be an Infernal, they have to see.
Yeah, simply not enough members, not enough vision to move into that darkness. Vedius, you highlighted it earlier. And look, SK Telecom instead saying, let's try to keep the Baron vision up. An Infernal versus a Baron, if you have to pick to concede one objective, that is the one that you pick. Every time Clid moves forward, he's clearing out those wards, but G2 Esports, they're now barreling down the middle lane.
Yeah, and that was the thing. They had already dropped all their vision top side of the map. They were worried about the Baron, so much so that they've been forced off this mid lane turret.
All right, the tower will fall shortly. Khan's got his hands on a quickness, so if SKT can find an opportunity, that's another huge tool to use in this team fight. Perks takes a big chunk of damage, sticks around. There goes the bomb. Manages to get dodged by the Feather Storm. SKT looking for the re-engage. Abscond the duck. Use their onto Wonder. Defensive move away from Cap. The Hourglass goes down. Perks takes out Clid. That's the first for G2. The Cocoon on the back end. That secures the kill into Teddy. Now Faker needs to do it all. He's forced to run away. Uses that cleanse. Still holds onto the flash. It's 2 quick kills for Europe.
G2 find really big kills there, and it looked like that was the moment SKT were waiting for, the small misstep, the small misplay from the side of G2, but they were able to outmaneuver, they were able to outperform, and a lot of it comes off the back of that huge gold lead that they're currently sitting on. They're now making their way towards the Baron, and they're starting it off.
All right, Khan is in range, got flash available to him. Vision denial inside the pit, though. This will benefit G2. Taking a look at the minimap, Marta's making his way up. Baron's going very low. This should be G2's, and it's secured by Perks. Baron and an even larger gold lead at 24 minutes on the clock, 7,000 gold, and G2 look fantastic.
And we said they had to fight eventually. Well, they looked for it onto one of the safest members in Perks, gets the ultimate out, only has to use his in response, and now the fight turns back towards G2.
And the biggest thing here was this stopwatch from Cap, because 3 members had committed onto him, thinking that they could just secure that kill, but then he buys so much time for the rest of the G2 members to then collapse onto Clid. With him out of the way, you then had this 2-pronged attack in this funnel point with which SKT could have fallen apart. So they were forced to retreat, meaning they couldn't continue the fight.
And with Clid dead, that meant no smite available. The cautious play of the LCK team meant that they weren't willing to approach the objective. Couldn't get there in numbers in time. Baron falls down.
Unbelievable start to the MSI group stage here, as Europe's G2 Esports with Mickey at the helm have played the map flawlessly. You can see that live goal difference. It has been one-sided the entirety of the match.
And whilst Korea wasn't able to regain any claw topside.
All right, Caps is in a little bit of trouble here. No flash available. That is an easy kill picked up by SKT. And listen to Hanoi. That's a lot of SKT fans in the audience. While that's going on, though, G2 are now looking for the engage. The quickness goes forward. Clid forced to move defensively. The Hourglass used by Khan. He buys some time. Steals the Feather Storm. Buys a few extra seconds, but it's simply not enough. Here comes Faker with the Emperor's Divide. Going golden is G2 Esports. A second kill from the fight. Now the roars in return as G2 can turn the pressure back around.
Just as I was about to criticize G2 for their first big mistake of the game, they immediately turned it around. As SKT, they thought they were confident enough to go for this red buff, but you gotta respect Perks. Level 16 on the Xayah. No one can approach him. He melts through the SKT lineup, and now they break the base.
The base is open. open wide. The inhibitor will fall shortly. 15 seconds for Khan.
Are they going for it?
For Faker. G2 Esports are teleporting into the base. They're looking for the Nexus turrets with the Baron empowered minions. Nexus turret number 1 falls. Nexus turret number 2 is being focused. That's Martin dead. Teddy flashes away. That's not over yet. The Nexus turret falls. Ladies and gentlemen watching MSI, do EU believe G2 obliterate SKT?
That was one of the cleanest G2 games that European fans will have seen. A one-sided dominant performance. Perfect execution. Only 1 or 2 mistakes the whole game, and SKT, they had no answers.
Welcome back to the international stage, SK Telecom T1. Europe's G2 Esports take SKT down in one of the most dominating fashions possible, with a team composition that did not have something pulled out of the wacky playbook. That was as standard as you're gonna get.
And it's members of the bottom lane standing up in Perks, in Mickey, you know, the area we thought would come under scrutiny. And then all of the strengths that we had seen, the top side of the map, that macro play, just turned the lights out. And SKT looked confused. That game was over so quickly.
100% kill participation for Mickey. The support that so many fans were concerned, would he be able to show up at the day? How is he going to perform without practice? The man looks flawless back on his favorite champ.
The bigger question we're going to step away from and start talking about is, should SKT have had a faster draft? I think this will be how one of the narratives will be refined. And you know what? Origin lasted longer than SKT did. For more on how G2 started the group stage with a victory, let's send to the State Farm analyst desk.
All right, thank you, Quick Shot. Adding a little bit more fire to it all. What a way to start the tournament, the group stage for G2 here. Jankos had said in that short clip of him we had earlier that the Western teams were coming in with confidence, but they did not have an easy schedule ahead of them.
Let's ask Raz about the
Oh my God, I knew you would do this. I just knew it was going to happen. So like going into the draft was important because for me, Clid started this one out incredibly smart, had an idea that the wave was starting to crash into top side, and he needed to be there to protect them.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, because of the draft, he had to kind of go for this path to beat top lane in case there's an early tower dive happening. And as you can see, Caps and Jankos already here. Classic G2, knowing the strong side is top, and Caps are willing to sacrifice mid a bit to try and get this kill, but they don't get it because the Lee Sin is on top side, so that was a smart move.
And there was a lot of inaction in terms of kills in the early game, but the first kill actually came at Marta's behest. Now, before this clip starts, Marta had actually used Aftershock on a trade, and support Nautilus, he's no super tank when he doesn't have that Aftershock up. So he goes for an opportunistic hook, gets one that he can't actually bank on, and gives over first blood in just 2v2 fashion.
And this was just a pure snowball in the sense that SKT doesn't have a lane that they could play towards, where Clid is up on top side to be able to defend him, and that was a great run at the first time round. But if you look at how the draft was able to orchestrate itself, Teddy on the Ezreal with the Nautilus, there's no power you can play through in the bottom side of the map. I would have much rather have seen a Varus there, so suddenly, if you wanted to find a play on the bot side of the map at level 6, you could do that.
Yeah, and when we introduced the teams earlier in the day, you know, Papa Smithy, you introduced SKT as a team who's probably a little bit slower, a bit more control is kind of the style they used in playoffs to win the LCK, and that's how they're going to start MSI. And that's what we got to see here in the draft. Like, they opted into putting Silas top lane against the Jace when they'd already seen Jace Elise on the side of G2. They said, okay, you know what, Khan, you're just going to have to try and survive. We'll help you a little bit. And then they pick, you know, Ezreal Azir, who's not exactly, again, the fastest characters in the game when it comes to actually early game impact. And it just meant you ended up with G2 looking at this draft saying, we know exactly what to do. We're going to hard win top lane. The moment we get an advantage there, we can now start forcing plays around the map. And they are so good when they come out from base of knowing we're not just going to run back to lanes and do nothing. No, you know, 2 people go mid lane, the dual lane in this case. Everyone else goes top lane. You're now hitting 2 turrets at once. And SKT are like, hang on, we need like 25 minutes here at least. And at 25 minutes, Nexus died.
I mean, I think a lot of things kind of came out to chalk the way we expected and built up these 2 teams coming in. But the thing that, you know, really kind of landed home for me was the speed, this idea of speed that G2 plays with. And almost quicker than I can think here as an analyst with the omniscient view, they're taking advantages that I'm not seeing.
They didn't lose a step. I honestly, like, the whole talk going into this event was like, Mickey X, is he ready? He certainly has been practicing, so my concern was like, if they come in, is that raw confidence that they had during the regular season and in the playoff run going to be missed a little bit? Will they have like slip up in their first few plays in the game? And they legitimately did not. They just slammed them.
It was super standard. You know, I tweeted out two things before we started. Obviously, on broadcast, I had the G2 prediction, which surprised some people. And I actually think SKT might go on and win this whole tournament. And the reason I can hold those two things in my head is that MSI isn't won on day one of the tournament. And SKT, from the draft and from what I saw from them most recently in the LCK, they were bird watching. They were sitting back and saying, all right, I don't really know where MSI 2019 is at. I realize the irony of bird watching with a zero in the mid lane. But they were sitting back and saying, let's work out the meta. We'll play a scaling comp, and eventually we'll outlast your team. Like worked against Kingzone, worked against Griffin and their Pantheon Talia. They took a lot of standard parts that, as a whole, led to some priority problems in lane. They didn't have much to play around. But G2 are a team, kind of like IG, who are different to the standard LCK team, and they were able to get over the line and end the game. You know, from 18 to 22, there were no further objectives gained by G2. They'd already taken the outer ring of turrets, and we're already saying, is this where the fight back comes out? No, the game's over. Like we've seen so much in 2019. So G2 played G2 style. SKT tried to work out what G2 is all about, and G2 win.
Yeah, for SKT, it's going to be about how much and how quickly can they learn here in the group stages. For G2, more of the same will do them quite well in this tournament. For more on that victory, though, Shox is standing by with the G2 bot laner for an interview.
Thank you very much, guys. I'm here with Perks after G2 opens up at MSI by beating SKT. SKT rumored to be one of the strongest teams here. What does it mean for you to take them down in your very first game at MSI?
Well, it feels good, but it doesn't feel anything special. I just want to win every game, right? And it doesn't feel that great because I felt the draft was kind of bad. So when if they play a better draft, then they should have more hope. And yeah, I mean, it feels good to win, right? Like, I don't know what to say. I actually counted yesterday. I lost every opening game so far in my career. I played 4 of them, and I lost all 4 of them. So winning now against SKT, it just feels nice, yeah. Times have changed.
It's a fantastic start, indeed. When I looked at the game, you guys got ahead really early, but it wasn't through getting as many kills, which is usually what happens in Europe. Was that a conscious effort versus SKT and maybe going into the rest of MSI, playing a bit of a different style?
No. I think we were playing the same as we usually play. I just think they are better than opposition in Europe. So they have defended like our dive stop and our like threats and stuff. And they also played, I mean, they played well from behind. So it wasn't that easy to just snowball against them. So they're just a better team than European teams. But we played the same way. And yeah, I'm happy with how we played.
Yeah, fair assessment. Around 20 minutes, there was this feeling of this is SKT. They have Teddy who can be so strong in these team fights. Was there ever fear in the team that you could lose it at that point in time before that Baron? Or were you just confident after the first phase that you were going to close it out?
I mean, I don't really know. I mean, I didn't have any fear. I don't, like in game, I only look for ways to win the game or what to do to win the game. And this game, I was really ahead. So I was just calling to wait for my third item because I would get a lot faster than Ezreal, and then we could just force a fight and get Nash, hopefully. And it wasn't really, I don't know how the fight even started. I feel like
you stepped forward. I'm sorry, yeah.
They just tried to go on me, and then because I wanted to bait the fight, and then they took the bait, and then we got Nash of that. So it was pretty nice, and big props to Mickey. I have to mention again, he hasn't played for 3 months solo queue. And we just started screaming 2 days ago with him, and he played so well again. So I don't know, I'm just lucky to play with him.
Yeah, it was wonderful to see. I do want to ask about your performance as well, because this is your first international tournament as an AD carry. And in the first game, you take down one of the most hyped guys at MSI in Teddy. How do you feel about your performance as AD carry going forward?
Well, I feel like it was kind of like his support fault and also draft. And I think Teddy played really well from like what I could see. So yeah, I mean, I don't really feel any pressure or hype, or honestly, like it's just like at this point it's just another day in the building. So I just want to make sure that me and my team are feeling as comfortable and as happy to play every game on stage. And I just feel very comfortable with my team. So I don't have any worries, and even because we haven't come over many problems yet. But when we come over them, we need to solve them. And it's just the first game of the MSI, right?
Yeah.
We can't say yet for sure, but we played well now.
Yeah, I have to say cool, calm, and collected. So are you taking down IG later?
That's the plan, yeah. Yeah.
Great. We'll be looking forward to that. No, thank you, Perks. Fantastic first game here at MSI of G2 Esports. We are going to take a small break, but when we come back, it is time for the Flash Wolves versus Team Liquid, so don't go anywhere.